So the next fight that we got lined up here is going to be number 5. It's your sleeper, number 5. I'm going to show you how to pronounce it right here, AJ. I got you. Alexandre Pantoja. Number 5, Alexandre Pantoja facing off against Manel Kape at flyweight, and Manel Kape is making his flyweight debut. Now set the table for us, AJ. What do you got on this one?
Now, like you said, Alexandre Pantoja, he's super aggressive even off his back. That's why I was a big fan of this guy. He's literally looking to tap you in any sort of position. The second either he gets the takedown or you take him down. No matter what, he's super dangerous. He's one of those new breeds of fighters that I've been talking about that's coming out of Brazil, and then they're fighting at AT&T, and they're super well prepared. If you watch his last fight against Oskar Askarov, I know it's confusing a little bit, but a different guy completely. Askarov was totally dominating the fight from a position standpoint. But if you really watch what was going on, Pantoja was rolling, controlling the grappling, and actually getting a lot of very dominant positions that just didn't look that dominant to a casual fan or even the judges. So he ended up losing the decision. But I personally think he won round 1. It was a close round 2. He lost round 3. So it could have been either way. But Pantoja, he's scary, especially for the 125-pound division because he's so long with a 68-inch reach. He's only 5'5", but he has a lot of very tricky, unorthodox ways in which he can tap you out. Now, Manel Kape, like I alluded to before, and like you said, this is his first UFC fight. He's fighting out of Rizin, and for a long time, he's not necessarily fighting the biggest fighters. He's not fighting the biggest names coming out of Rizin, so we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. And we were talking about this before pre-show. He was fighting in a league where Rizin doesn't have the unified rules. So against his fight against Kai Asakata and Takeo Mazugaki, he was literally kicking people with shoes on. And I don't know if you felt this, but I know back in karate when we were able to wear the wrestling shoes and whatever not, you get kicked with a dude wearing shoes and he points his toe, man, it hurts way more than getting kicked with a foot. Now you kick with the shin, it's kind of all cut, done, and kaput, but still, it's a huge advantage that Manel Kape was able to utilize in Rizin, whereas now he's going in there, no J's on his feet, kind of a brand new show, big names now, and it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that pressure. Now, he does pack up a lot of power into that small frame. It's just going to see if that power can transfer over from Japan to America, where we know these boys in the UFC like to eat.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have any big questions for you, Derek, as far as where's the star power from this fight. I guess my biggest question is who has more to risk and why is anybody even interested in Manel Kape?
Oh, I mean, people are interested in Manel Kape because look at what he's doing in Rizin. Now, he's a big star over there. Dude's like, I think 15-4. He's kind of like running through people, starching people. And in that last fight, I believe it was, let me see what his name is. Kai. Yeah, there we go. So it was a rematch. That was a rematch. And so what's interesting about this, man, is Manel Kape, he has this explosive power that you really only see at 125 from like a Davison Figueiredo. That's what's interesting about him. That's why people are tuning in, is because we already saw UFC was contemplating getting rid of the flyweight division. He's like, y'all are too technical and too boring. Nobody wants to pay to watch this, right? But then you get an overseas star like Manel Kape, a dude who is kind of padding up his record. Let's be honest here. You know what I mean? You're fighting dudes over there at Rizin, which is kind of so let me ask you this, because this was part of my first question. The similarities are there between these two fighters. Manel Kape's last win was it was by punches. It was a knockout win in a very similar modified pull counter right cross that Alexandre Pantoja landed on Wilson Reyes in his fight in 2019, man. It was like almost the identical strike. So the similarities are there, but do you respect the competition at Rizin as much as you do a Bellator or a One Championship or even an LFA or a Cage Warriors? I just want to kind of gauge that. Like, what is your level of respect for Rizin as opposed to these other leagues?
Rizin, any fighter coming out of Rizin is hard to respect just because we don't see much promotion.
Yeah.
We don't see many even fights on YouTube. You have to really go and look for them. And I know Rizin, you can actually get free fights. It's either Rizin or ONE FC, one of those two. But even to that point, I don't know which one. So that being right there, you already kind of tells you my interest level in that. Now, I think the biggest advantage or the biggest why people should be interested in Manel Kape is the same reason why he was brought over to the UFC. And, man, it's because he's a talker. He's been in the media just telling everybody he's going to rip this dude's head off. He's done, all this stuff. Go and look at it. He's really bringing that hype train that you need to see in the 125 that only one other person is saying, and that's Deiveson Figueiredo. Everybody else in that division is basically a nice guy, and we saw how nice guys get passed over in a fight we'll talk about later in Corey Sandhagen. He gets that big win, doesn't call out the champ. All right, then somebody else fights him. Now, Manel Kape, he's a talker. He can actually get those big fights and make that draw to the 125 that isn't there. And I think that's his biggest advantage to him as a fighter.
I feel that, man. So listen, in my opinion, I believe that in terms of let's talk technical for a second. I believe Pantoja, he's at his best. He's kind of a slow starter, and I believe that he's at his best when he can kind of stand back at range, get a feel for the timing and for the movement and whatnot, and pick you apart with counters. I think that's the best version of Alexandre Pantoja. Now, there's another version of Pantoja who doesn't use his leg kicks or use that front kick to the body, kind of like a teep. Doesn't use those things. And that's what I call dog Pantoja, you know what I mean? And that's the dude who disregards all the distance, all the measurements, all the composure, and just gets in an all-out firefight like he did with Deiveson Figueiredo when his counters weren't working. This dude his nickname is the Cannibal for a reason. This dude goes to work, right? So my question to you is that if he has success, oftentimes he is sticking back, being composed, but when he's not having success, that's when he gets drawn into all that. Being that Kape is a talker, like you just alluded to, which version of Pantoja do you think shows up on Saturday night?
I think that, especially with Kape being a talker, a lot of the media hype being on him, and really a number 5 fighter fighting some dude who's coming in off of Ryzen. I mean, he was winning fights. I'm pretty sure he was the 125-pound champ in Ryzen, but still.
The 135-pound. He actually was going down weight, yeah.
Exactly. So even still, but he's still a champ, still has a good name behind him. It's just not necessarily the level of competition that Pantoja is expecting or wanting, but that gives him a good aspect to make his name off of this dude coming in. Now, I don't know. What do you think?
So let me ask you this, man, because this is my big summary question for this, right? If Manel Kape wins this bout, I imagine he's thrust into the Michael Chandler position of the flyweight division, right? This is a former Ryzen bantamweight champion. He has a solid record at 15-4-0, and this dude finishes fights, right? With Pantoja ranked at number 5 right now, do you think Kape would be next in line for a title shot with a decisive win this weekend? Now, maybe Brandon Moreno is still number 1, but I guess number 2 next to Brandon Moreno.
Oh, he's definitely, if Kape gets it done and gets it done within the first, second round impressively, I would expect him to be either fighting Moreno or in that lineup, maybe even fighting Brandon Royval. Kind of those top 4 or 5 interesting area, mix them up how we're having in the 155-pound division, where the champ necessarily isn't decided yet, and you kind of need to see what's going on there. Now he can get that finish. That's going to leave him up, especially drop him fighting a number 5 fighter. And it's going to be interesting to see how he gets it done.
Well, we saw that the UFC absolutely does not care about the rankings, and if the fight sells, they'll put them in the title fight, which is why they're already trying to book Chandler for title fights and whatnot, even though everyone is disagreeing. So ultimately, man, who's your pick and why?
I'm going Pantoja with the submission win round 2. Who you got?
I'm going Manel Kape, and the reason why is because, like you're saying, man, another opportunity of a lifetime. You walking in, you're getting to fight number 5 out the gate, and he already says it. He says, I want the top dog in the UFC. That's who I'm coming for. I'm gonna break this dude's ribs. I'm not playing around. And listen, man, you got to back it up. If you're talking that talk like that, I'm excited to see how he performs not wearing a pair of J's or Nikes or whatever, man. I want to see this dude get down, so I'm going Manel Kape, and I'm gonna go, listen, man, you fighting the Cannibal. I think he's gonna bring the dog out. Give me a knockout win. There we go. I'm feeling bold today, man. So